Hi everybody, thank you guys for joining me today. We have a big table full of artifacts and an interesting story to tell you today. We went to the OSA, which is the Office of the State Archaeological Department, and it is basically the warehouse where they keep a lot of the artifacts in. And today I'm going to show you mostly new artifacts. A lot of these are brand new. You can see these weird hominid type characters on some of these weird stones. They almost look like dinosaur people. I don't know what's going on here, but I can show you a little more how the profiles, as you can see the nose poking out right here, and there's smaller little profiles as we zoom in. I almost want to zoom in on it right now just to show you, because it is a very interesting piece. So it shows, it seems to show the story of creation, or at least their version of it. And it's fascinating stuff. What they do is they put these thumb holes in these stones. So whenever you flip them over, there's also a portrait on them. And these thumb holes are oftentimes, you see how the way it's curved for the thumbnail? Oh, sorry, I'll get it in the frame there. So you can just put it in there. You see how the way it's even put to where you put your thumb inside of it. So this is a meme of their ancient style, which is incredible. What that is a thumb impression. As you can see, the curve for the thumbnail above it. And I only know this because of learning this art from this ancient site. You can see just on the very outside here, and I'll try to get a perfect, white silhouette there so that you guys can see all the little cracks and indentions in this little blade that is on the end of this, which has several different little human silhouettes on it. So we're looking at the very outside edge, of course, but if you look closely at the interior where it becomes all black, you can see how there's an open mouth right here. So following my thumb here, you can see how there's a line in the black stone, and you can see how the eye is positioned right here for this human that is going to be portrayed looking away from us. And you can see how the hairline is done right here with the bird on her head. Oh, I'm very sorry about that. With the bird on her head there. And that is what we do here in North Carolina. We put birds on women's heads. So this dinosaur, weird looking character has a human silhouette just on the very end of it, just on the very tip. You can see how there's little paintings and things right there at the very end. Now, you might think it's ridiculous to look at stone at this level of detail, how there is an eye here, a simple little silhouette with the different color. You can see the color change from here to here. There's a line here that shows that color change. But if you think about people that lived with stone their entire lives, how they worked with stone, and how stone was everything to them. You can see the carving for the circle for the eye there. You can understand how they made photo albums out of this stone. We've seen a lot of these little silhouettes here before, but of course you guys can see how the circle eye is done here in the corner. I'll put it right in the middle of the screen there. And how the cheekbone is represented. And if you look at these little spots here, you can see how these are all the feathers of a headdress. So my trip to OSA, the Office of State Archaeology Research Center, was full of a lot of boxes and a lot of crates that had things inside of them. And they had a lot of historic places, but also a lot of stone artifacts as well. So they did have a nice collection of pre-Clovis and Clovis points. I love the way the bird head is represented here with the rougher section below. And you can see the way the bird beak is really positioned with the eye carving and everything. Beautiful. It's a really nice bird head. You guys can see the diamond carving for the eye, of course. My bird is freaking out for some reason. So, like I said, we have a whole, I may have said, we have a whole ton of new artifacts that we're pulling out right now because of the creek being kind of contaminated. You guys can see, sorry for bumping the camera there, you guys can see the nose point sticking out, and you'll be able to see how there's just a little silhouette here. So I'm going to show you a few of the new ones that we have and a few of the old ones. So the gorilla really caught the attention of the person who was giving me the tour. You guys can see the fangs in the mouth of this gorilla. And we'll go right from that to the other bird head here. So, you know, we're looking at this bird head here with the carving for the beak. Looking at the one behind it, you guys can see how the similarities are just uncanny. The way the top is done, the same exact style, motif, the same exact things. And, you know, people say, oh, you're just seeing patterns and things. Yes, you're exactly right. There's also a portrait here on the end of this stone here. And when we flip it over, you guys can see the beautiful black silhouette of the big bird here, but I think this side probably shows the best version of it. And we know this one here, of course, it has the thumb tab. Oh, sorry. The thumb tab here that lets you kind of fly it so that you can move it around into the air. And of course, you can see the eye spot poking out there for this beautiful bird. It's a really nice one. So, really thank you guys for watching. If you look closely, I never saw this before, but you can see the crest for the bird head as well. And it's really neat because you see I can wiggle it really easily. It has this little spot right here so that you can make it fly. It's perfectly balanced in that way. Here's a couple balls. So this one I just found recently on the left here. And this one on the right I found a long time ago outside of the mound. It's more of a chunky stone, so to speak, but this is just a ball, which is nice. It's just a rock. I brought this one to the State Archaeological Society as well. This is a conch shell. It's a representation, a stone representation of a shell. And you can, I mean, you guys have seen conch shells before, so you guys can tell. You guys can see, hopefully. And on the other side, it does have bird heads and humans and things on it as well. You guys can see just little tiny ripples and etchings and things. That's what makes, let me get this in focus. There we go. Here. As closely as we can look at this here, as I can get it in focus. That's what they made. You gotta understand, these guys were in the woods, right? They didn't have houses. So they weren't looking at cell phones, but they were looking at these carvings of human beings on these stones. This is a giant bird head effigy. And if you look closely, if I can, sorry, my focus doesn't seem to be perfect here. I'm trying to show the silhouette here on the left-hand side. And this is just a giant representation of a duck head and many other things as well. It's just a big bird head. Let's see what else we have here, guys. There's a bunch of new ones, so let's take a quick look at this big bird man statue here. And you can see how the eye carving is done and the big nose here. The big nose is probably another bird. You can see the way the beak is done and the head, the round head. But the eye carving is really nice, and I cleaned this off really well. Normally I don't do that. So you can see the colors on it very well. Beautiful statue. This would be perfect for a museum. And on the other side, it has its own character and own carvings on it. And up here in different ways, let's go ahead and turn it around. You can see how it just represents a big bird here, facing this way. With its crest, you can see the way the stripes are vertical on the crest and the way the eye is done. It is more than likely a human. And then you see how it has a long nose, right? This is the way the art works. You tilt the nose so that the nose becomes proportioned to the face. And then as you look into that small little section of the face, as you tilt it to make it more proportioned, you can see the details for the face. So this is an exaggerated version of that, but it's very cool indeed. Very beautiful one. I think the carving for the eye is, you know. So I know that, you know, just like I told the person at the Archaeological Society there, you're not going to see everything that I'm pointing out. You're not going to realize all of the stuff that I'm talking about. However, you're going to see something. You're going to see a little bit of something that, you know, it's like, wait a minute, this does deserve a little bit more research. And I agree. And I want you guys to take over. I don't necessarily. This is a beautiful statue. So we have the nose and the eye, the dark spot for the eye right there of the face right here. And then you can see how her hair is coming down and cascading down behind her. Very beautiful. And pointing upward, they made it so that you could see pointing upward there would be another one. So in this one here, you can see the crack for the lips, of course, and then the face below and the round head. And like I was trying to explain a little bit earlier, these are the TVs of early people. They didn't have what we have now, but they still wanted to be entertained. So instead of looking at this as the mouth, look at this as the chin, and that little ripple right there, the little detail of the mouth, the nose, and the eye above. It gets very small and detailed. This is a very beautiful one. And since we know the art now and we've looked at different sides of it, we can look at different sections. You can see how the chin line is defined here, and how the mouth, and of course the carving for the eye. There's a crystal inclusion left, and oh my gosh, yeah, as you tilt it and move it, there'll be more and more faces. It's the way that works, but you can see the chin line with the rest of the hair coming back, represented in the paint, perhaps with the ear sticking out. So this is a really beautiful crystal gateway example. The gateway examples are painted white crystals, and you can see a very preserved example here with the very black paint on it, and all these little notches and ripples and markings are faces and images and stories put into the stones as they did them. So it's a very curious type of art. We won't try to interpret this one. Here's one that's a little bit older. It might be a little bit easier to interpret, but they got very crafty. So the point of the yellow, the orange with the nose, you can see the black spot is the eye. Then look for the silhouette, the human silhouette on that. And then look into the black section for maybe another human silhouette. And then even into the red section here in between the two black sections. And there's an orange stripe as well. So you can see the diamond shape here, kind of pointing right at us, and you can see all the orange and black paint on here, if nothing else. And I understand that you might not be able to see the silhouettes yet. It is a learned style of art, so it takes a little while to learn it. Let me show you this real quick. This little girl is famous her white dot spot for her, the pupil of her eye, and you can see the other side of her eye there, her nose and her mouth just sticking out right here. And different distances again will help with this one. In different light, different shadows, but you can see how she's just sitting here right at the end. So if we look closely at her mouth, I don't see him in this. You know, her mouth is just regular, but in some of the statues, for some reason, at some point in time, I thought that they were stitched. So we can see another big statue to the right here. And this is a find from when I first came back from Texas. And again, that same human silhouette. You know, of course, I'm holding the chin or the neck of the person with the big whatever the heck's going on back here. And you can see also there's a right side portrait as well. I love the stripes and the color difference on this. I'll show you how thin it is. So, you know, we find these artifacts all over the place, but this place in North Carolina is very special because it seems to be some type of library. It was a cache of all these artifacts. Now this round stone, believe it or not, all these little markings and paintings, the reason why it's so defined and you see maybe a pattern inside of it is because there are faces inside of this. So late at night at the fire, people would look at this and see, you know, they would zoom in and they would look as close as they could and they would see little images, and it was like a toy. So they would pass it to their friends that they just met that day hunting. They'd say, hey, check this out. Oh man, look at that. It looks like there's two eyes and a nose, and it's what they did. And it's all over every single rock in North America. Sometimes we look at these as just rocks and we forget to see the brown, the black, the color. So we can see the silhouette here on the right hand side with the, of course, the nose and the carving. You can see the circle with the diamond. I'll zoom in on that here. So we can see that beautiful circle, that perfect circle outside of the nose. So we're looking at the longest point as being the nose, just in the carvings, not looking at the color. And we can see how the mouth is done right here, how the chin and the neck. So we're looking at this brown stripe, circle eye. If you're looking at the color at the top, you're seeing the hat